through all our veils and shrouds of daily pain, through our bruised bruises and reopened scars. He falls and stumbles with us, hurt again when we are hurt again. With us, he bears the cruel repetitions of our cruelty, the beatings of already beaten men, the second rounds of torture, the futility of all unheeded pleading, every scream in vain. These words come from the poetic reflections written by Malcolm Guite, which will provide one of the lenses through which we will view the journey of the Via Crucis, or the way of the cross, during this service. While the Via Crucis is an ancient practice that started in the early centuries after Christ's death as a pilgrimage in Jerusalem and became localized in the 15th and 16th centuries for spiritual devotion, Guite's poetry reminds us that the Via Crucis is not simply something in the distant past to be viewed from afar, but is also something that touches us even today through the cruel repetitions of our cruelty, the beatings of already beaten men. Unfortunately, the depiction of the stations in traditional art down through the ages has encouraged us to view the way of the cross from a safe distance. Guite's reflections also remind us that the Via Crucis is the Via Dolorosa, the way of sorrow as well. Through our bruised bruises and reopened scars. The journey of Holy Week, and particularly of Good Friday, invites us to remember that Christ's sorrow and passion is with us even today, as companion of the most vulnerable among us in their own suffering and torture, and as the subject of every unheeded pleading, every scream in vain. Thus, tonight we have chosen to depict each station on the Via Crucis with a contemporary image that asks us how to see how the way of the cross is still experienced and created today. And because of the nature of the way of sorrow and suffering, we are aware, and want you to be aware as well, that some of the content of these images may reopen wounds that are traumatizing. Thankfully, even on the way of suffering, we are not without hope. For this side of the cross, we cannot experience Friday without also looking through to Sunday. In his journey of solidarity with us, Christ carried the offering of ultimate abundance for another, so that we might experience healing and wholeness. And in traveling the way of the cross, we are invited to consider how we might do the same. May we, in walking the way with Christ, both find healing and bring wholeness. Pilate said to them, "Why? What wrong has he done?" They shouted even louder, "Crucify him!" Pilate wanted to satisfy the crowd, so he released Barabbas to them. He had Jesus whipped, then handed him over to be crucified. The very air that Pilate breathes, the voice with which he speaks in judgment, all his powers of perception and discrimination, choice, decision, all his years, his days and hours, his consciousness of self, his every sense are given by this prisoner. Freely given. As one who stands there making no defense is God. His hands are tied. His heart is open. And he bears Pilate's heart in his and feels that crushing weight of wasted life. He lifts it up in silent love. He lifts and heals. He gives himself again with all his gifts into our hands. As Pilate turns away, a door swings open. This is Judgment Day. When they finished mocking him, they stripped him of the purple robe and put his own clothes back on him. Then they led him out to crucify him. He gives himself again with all his gifts. And now we give him something in return. He gave the earth that bears, the air that lifts, water to cleanse and cool, fire to burn. And from these elements we forged the iron. From strands of life we wove the growing wood. He made the stones that pave the roads of Zion. He saw it all and saw that it is good. We took his iron to edge an axe's blade. We took the axe and laid it to the tree. We made a cross and all that he has made and laid it on the one who made us free. Now he receives again and lifts on high the gifts he gave, and we have turned awry. It was certainly our sickness that he carried, and our sufferings that he bore. But we thought him afflicted, struck down by God, and tormented. He was pierced because of our rebellions and crushed because of our crimes. He bore the punishment that made us whole. By his wounds we are healed. Like sheep, we had all wandered away, each going its own way. But Adonai let fall on him all our crimes. He made the stones that pave the roads of Zion, and well he knows the path we make him tread. He met the devil as a roaring lion and still refused to turn these stones to bread, choosing instead, as love will always choose, this darker path into the heart of pain. And now he falls upon these stones that bruise the flesh, that break and scrape the tender skin. He and the earth he made were never closer. Divinity and dust come face to face. We flinch back from his Via Dolorosa. He sets his face like flint and takes our place, staggers beneath the black weight of us all, and falls with us that he might break our fall. Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, "This boy is a sign to be the cause of the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that generates opposition so that the inner thoughts of many will be revealed. And a sword will pierce your innermost being too." This darker path into the heart of pain was also hers, whose love enfolded him in flesh and wove him in her womb. Again, the sword is piercing. She who cradled him and gentled and protected her young son must stand and watch the cruelty that marks her maiden making. Waves of pain that stun and sicken pass across his face and hers as their eyes meet. Now she enfolds the world he loves in prayer. The mothers of the disappeared who know her pain. All bodies bowed and curled in despair on this road of tears, all the grief-stricken in their last despair are folded in the mantle of her prayer. Simon, a man from Cyrene, Alexander and Rufus' father, was coming in from the countryside. They forced him to carry his cross. In desperation on this road of tears, bystanders and by passers turn away in others' pain. We face our own worst fears and turn our backs to keep those fears at bay, unless we are compelled, as this man was, by force of arms or force of circumstance, to face and feel and carry someone's cross in love's full glare, and not his backward glance. So Simon, no disciple, still fulfilled the calling. Take the cross and follow me. By accident, his life was stalled and stilled, becoming all he was compelled to be. Make me like him, your pressed man and your priest, your altar Christus, burdened and released. He grew up like a young plant before us, like a root from dry ground. He possessed no splendid form for us to see, no desirable appearance. He was despised and avoided by others, a man who suffered, who knew sickness well. Like someone from whom people hid their faces, he was despised, and we didn't think about him. Standers, and by passers turn away and wipe his image from their memory. She keeps her station. She is here to stay and stem the flow. She is the reliquary of his last look on her. The bloody sweat and salt tears of his love are soaking through the folds of her devotion and the wet folds of her handkerchief, like the dew of morning, like a softening rain of grace. Because she wiped the grime from off his skin and glimpsed the Godhead in his human face, whose hidden image we all bear within. Through all our veils and shrouds of daily pain, the face of God is shining once again. I am someone who saw the suffering caused by God's angry rod. He drove me away, forced me to walk in darkness, not light. He turned his hand even against me, over and over again, all day long. Through all our veils and shrouds of daily pain, through our bruised bruises and reopened scars, he falls and stumbles with us, hurt again when we are hurt again. With us, he bears the cruel repetitions of our cruelty, the beatings of already beaten men. The second rounds of torture, the futility of all unheeded pleading, every scream in vain. And by this fall he finds the fallen souls who passed a first, but failed a second trial, the souls who thought their faith would hold them whole and found it only held them for a while. Be with us when the road is twice as long as we can bear. By weakness, make us strong. A huge crowd of people followed Jesus, including women who were mourning and wailing for him. Jesus turned to the women and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, don't cry for me. Rather, cry for yourselves and your children. The time will come when they will say, 'Happy are those who are unable to become pregnant, the wombs that never gave birth, and the breasts that never nursed a child.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' If they do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" He falls and stumbles with us, hurt again. But still, he holds the road and looks in love on all of us who look on him. Our pain as close to him as his. These women move compassion in him as he does in them. He asks us both to weep and not to weep. Women of Gaza and Jerusalem. Women of every nation where the deep wounds of memory divide the land and lives of all your children. Where the mines of all our wars are sown. Afghanistan, Iraq, the Côte d'Ivoire. He reads the signs and weeps with you, and with you he will stay until the day he wipes your tears away. It's good for a man to carry a yoke in his youth. He should sit alone and be silent when God lays it on him. He should put his mouth in the dirt. Perhaps there is hope. He should offer his cheek for a blow. He should be filled with shame. My Lord definitely won't reject forever. Although he has caused grief, he will show compassion according to the abundance of his steadfast love. He weeps with you, and with you he will stay when all your staying power has run out. You can't go on. You go on anyway. He stumbles just beside you when the doubt that always haunts you cuts you down at last and takes away the hope that drove you on. This is the third fall, and it hurts the worst. This long descent through darkness to depression from which there seems no rising and no will to rise or breathe or bear your own heartbeat. Twice you survived. This third will surely kill. And you could almost wish for that defeat, except that in the cold hell where you freeze, you find your God beside you on his knees.
Surely
when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means skull place, they gave Jesus wine mixed with vinegar to drink, but after tasting it, he didn't want to drink it. After they crucified him, they divided up his clothes among him by drawing lots. They sat there, guarding him. You can't go on. You go on anyway. He goes with you, his cradle to your grave. Now is the time to loosen, cast away the useless weight of everything but love. For he began his letting go before the worlds for which he dies were made, emptied himself, became one of the poor, to make you rich in him and unafraid. See, as they strip the robe from off his back, they strip away your own defenses too. Now you could lose it all and never lack. Now you can see what naked love can do. Let go these bonds beneath whose weight you bow. His stripping strips you both for action now. They crucified him. They divided up his clothes, drawing lots for them to determine who would take what. See, as they stripped the robe from off his back and spread his arms and nailed him to the cross. The dark nails pierce him, and the sky turns black, and love is firmly fastened onto loss. But here a pure change happens. On this tree, loss becomes gain. Death opens into birth. Here, wounding heals and fastening makes free. Earth breathes in heaven. Heaven roots in earth. And here we see the length, the breadth, the height where love and hatred meet and love stays true. where sin meets grace and darkness turns to light. We see what love can bear and be and do. And here, our Savior calls us to his side. His love is free. His arms are open wide. At 3, Jesus cried out in a loud shout, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you left me?" After hearing him, some standing there said, "Look, he's calling Elijah." Some ran, filled a sponge with sour wine, and put it on a pole. He offered it to Jesus to drink, saying, "Let's see if Elijah will come to take him down." But Jesus let out a loud cry and died. The dark nails pierce him, and the sky turns black. We watch him as he labors to draw breath. He takes our breath away to give it back, return it to its birth through his slow death. We hear him struggle, breathing through the pain, who once breathed out his spirit on the deep, who formed us when he mixed the dust with rain and drew us into consciousness from sleep. His spirit and his life he breathes in all, mantles his world in his one atmosphere. And now he comes to breathe beneath the pall of our pollutions, draw in our injured air to cleanse it and renew. His final breath breathes us and bears us through the gates of death.
Oh
When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and what had just happened, they were filled with awe and said, "This was certainly God's Son." Many women were watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to serve him. His spirit and his life he breathes in all. Now, on this cross, his body breathes no more. Here at the center of everything is still, spent and emptied, opened to the core. A quiet taking down, a prizing loose, a crossbeam lowered like a weighing scale, unmaking of each thing that had its use, a long withdrawing of each bloodied nail. This is ground zero. Emptiness and space with nothing left to say or think or do, but look unflinching on the sacred face that cannot move or change or look at you. Yet in that prizing loose and letting be, he has unfastened you and set you free. Then Joseph of Arimathea bought a linen cloth, took Jesus down from the cross, wrapped him in the cloth, and laid him in a tomb that had been carved out of rock. He rolled a stone against the entrance to the tomb. Here at the center, everything is still before the stir and movement of our grief, which bears its pain with rhythm, ritual, beautiful, useless gestures of relief. So they anoint the skin that cannot feel, soothing his ruined flesh with tender care, kissing the wounds they know they cannot heal, with incense scenting only empty air. He blesses every love that weeps and grieves and makes our grief the pangs of a new birth. The love that's poured in silence at old graves, renewing flowers, tending the bare earth, is never lost. In him, all love is found and sown with him, a seed in the rich ground.